Rare is giving players a second opportunity to make our choices matter. This time the fate of Flameheart and Pendragon are in our hands. And since I already made my propaganda video, all that is left to do is give you my review about the actual adventure. And there's even some interesting lore to discuss, so let's get into it. And let's just start with saying that I really like this adventure. Both sides have the same tasks and it all seems pretty balanced. You can tell the developers learned from Lost Sands. Every time you turn in a bewitching doll, it will count to your faction. Turning in an enchanted bewitching doll will give you more, as does turning in when forts are flying the flags of the side you are supporting. Turning in dolls when all forts fly the same flag will give you the biggest reward. We don't know the exact numbers, but the developers did hint that there is a huge difference when all forts belong to the same side. Just make sure you pick up the right flag at either Junior or Bell. You can also check these tables to have a look which faction is controlling the most forts, but a quick glance at the horizon will inform you just the same. And I really appreciate this effect. When you see a beacon change color, you know there are players involved, even when they are not flying any emissary. And this is great for PvP. Last time I had a lot of fun getting the supplies from Merrick while also defending Golden Sands by sinking every Reaper I came across. I had a lot of fun then, and this adventure is even better. Because the forts are scattered all over, the entire sea is your battlefield, and thanks to the beacons it's easy to judge where players are. Sinking a ship might reward you with their bewitching dolls, which you can also use for your side. So yeah, pretty much all I could wish for. And you don't hear me say this often, but this adventure is great for alliances. You can split up and work at different forts, or team up and become a stronger force to deal with. Checking the map to see threats to your alliance, both on your ship and at the forts, and coming up with an efficient strategy never has been this much fun. But I'm also going to say there is one slight downside to the way this adventure is set up. As some of you know, I decided to give Pendragon some love these coming weeks. I mean, let's be fair, he kinda needs it. However, in all honesty, I'm pretty 50-50 on this adventure. And yet I feel myself more compelled to side with the Reapers when I'm actually playing. Not because of story reasons, of which there are also plenty, but more so from a gameplay perspective. As an experienced player myself, I like to fight the Reaper's emissary, sink everyone on the server, and turn in all of my loot at the Reapers for maximum profit. Which is now even more convenient with Junior standing next to the docks. Still, you can support Athena while flying the Reaper emissary of course, and that's probably what I end up doing. However, it's a little less convenient to first drop your dolls at Shipwreck Bay before going to the hideout. The only other downside to this adventure is that we can't really check our progression. Rare promised to give us updates of who is winning, and that's fine, but we don't have a visual representation in-game, which is a shame because seeing the amount of fog on Golden Sands was one of the best additions to the Lost Sands adventure. Pendragon being sucked more and more into the painting, or Flameheart beginning to twitch his fingers would have been a nice indication. I'm not that bummed about it, but I would at least have liked to check on our progress by going to the website. So yeah, in terms of gameplay, this adventure is about as perfect as I would like. There is still yet another downside, but I will save that for the conclusion. For now, let's have a look at the lore. As most players know by now, it's the time of resurrection. Flameheart's return is prophesied, and Arthur is using his magical sword to trap Flameheart in a far forgotten place in the Sea of the Damned. But why are these forts so important? We learn more about this when you find the journal on Royal Crest Fortress. While reading this, we discover it was no coincidence 6 forts were pulled from the Sea of the Damned. 6 forts, just as there are 6 flames of fate. The ritual of resurrection is similar to the ritual on the Fort of the Damned, where these flames were also needed to weaken the veil to let Grey Marrow pass into this world. This time, it's the energies of these forts that are infusing the dark relics needed for Flameheart's resurrection. And to ensure the relics go to the right faction, us players are needed to take control of them. I also like that each fort has its own Flame of Fate, which is pretty cool. Something that makes a bit less sense is Flameheart seemingly having his original skull back. But even this is explained in another journal. You can find this one on the west side of Reaper's hideout. It talks about Junior using Jim's skull that, thanks to this ritual, is transforming into a skull that is more fitting to Flameheart. And I think that's a pretty lame explanation. Flameheart's skull has been destroyed and brought back again for a second time now, and I just wish the developers had the balls to actually keep the skull of Stitcher Jim intact. You can even set up a story where Jim's soul is trapped together with Flameheart, or Flameheart having a less than ideal resurrection. Or not having Pendragon destroy the skull for a second time in the first place. Either way, this journal also talks about Junior getting a chess set from his father, which is a nice addition since we also saw Flameheart play chess with Duke in the Heart of Fire novel. Spoilers by the way, I don't care. So let's go to the next journal, which is found on the balcony of the Black Witch on Shipwreck Bay. Belle comes to realize they cannot stop prophecy and therefore wants to perform the ritual themselves. However, the vessel they have in mind will be Flameheart's prison. If they win, Pendragon's blade will still be forever tainted with Flameheart's essence, and if they lose, Arthur himself will be lost to us instead, which we obviously don't want to happen. And the final journal can be found inside Mercy's End Fortress. But this one isn't that interesting since it's basically Junior explaining some strategies while also hoping everything goes well. So in conclusion, I really like this adventure and it feels better compared to Lost Sands in almost every way. Both sides seem pretty balanced and it leaves plenty of opportunity for both PvP and earning gold. The only other downside I alluded to earlier is the actual choice. Last time it really felt the community was split and even a good guy like me can't get that passionate about saving Pendragon when we have the resurrection of Flameheart on the table as well. The outcome seems pretty obvious this time and therefore the adventure just feels a little less exciting. Still, I hope we see some surprises and at least try to make it close. I also feel the developers expected the community to be just as divided as last time. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't have made this dilemma in the first place. Sadly, most players, including myself, really want to see Flameheart resurrected. I'm still fighting for that glorious mustache, but I do think the adventure would be better if players were more divided. Choices like Stitcher Jim's life versus Flameheart Jr., or deciding a new region like the underwater world of the Myr versus the icy region. Just some ideas, as long as it isn't Athena versus Reaper all the time. Having said that, I do love the propaganda, even if I'm also pretty done with hearing the same arguments every time. Especially the argument that we need Flameheart to defend us against the GMU, like we are just some helpless swabbies without his guidance. But oh well, I will save that discussion for the podcast. And since my co-host is the greatest Reaper apologist I know, it's bound to be an interesting episode. For now, have fun with this adventure and may the best side win. Wishes Arthur, obviously.